All right. Well, I would like to welcome you all to the podcast today, Making Love Visible When Everything Changes. I have an amazing guest on board with me today. I was invited to a friendship with her, oh gosh, several months ago. And then recently I saw that she was here in Hawaii. And I said, oh my, we have to get together. And she happened to be on the neighbor island, just heading back to Texas. And so I'd like to introduce to you Kathryn Eriksen of Empowered Way. She is an amazing, well, is it former attorney, now coach for the financial welfare of women? Kathryn, just give us the lowdown, would you please? And welcome. I'm so glad to have you with me.
Oh my gosh, June, I'm looking at you, remembering our trip in Hawaii and wanting to be there. So thank you for bringing a little bit of aloha back into my life. I appreciate that. I have had quite a journey. Just very quickly went to school, went to graduate school, became a lawyer, practiced law, blah, 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 right? And then when I decided, that's not what I want to do anymore, that's when life became really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have kind of fallen into this coaching for women about money and wealth because I've realized, looking back over my life, I was never taught how to be with money as a woman and to use my powers. I believe all women have several superpowers. And I wanted to learn how to use my powers to create wealth. And that's what I'm teaching now. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. Of course, there's a lot of ups and downs and backward spirals,
Gosh.
but it's been so wonderful for me to teach others because I learned so much by talking to people. And you and I had a really interesting conversation the day I was leaving Hawaii.
I know. I was thinking I want to save some of this good juice for later. So let's share a little bit more.
Okay.
Uh, I'm so curious. What what was it that you left a law practice for? I mean, people go to school and they have practice, and that's a career. But to leave a law practice to coach women in their financial welfare, what was the trigger? Was it something from childhood, or tell me what happened?
No, it really was more of a life event. My husband put me through law school, and then I put him through law school. So after we were both practicing, it was very stressful. We were both in litigation, and had to kind of juggle. Okay, I'm set for court on this day. Can you handle this? And that worked fine until we decided to adopt a baby. And that was the life event that, of course, set me in a totally different direction because very quickly, when you realize a baby obviously needs a lot of time and effort and energy, but adding the baby to the scheduling mix, it didn't make sense. We adoption is such a journey. We were very fortunate to, when we finally decided to adopt, to uh, get matched with the birth mother and then move into the whole adoption process very quickly. But I know there's other people who've gone to the end and held the baby in their arms, and then the birth mother doesn't terminate the parental rights or something horrific like that. So yeah, my full focus was on that, and practicing law became not quite as important
Mm-hmm.
because now I had this human being to nurture. And so I did take a few years off, became a mom, the mom. I was at school. I did the bake sales and all the things that I thought I was going to have to miss. And I was fortunate to be able to walk away from a law career, but I really got into writing. I needed to keep my creative juices going. So when she went to school and kindergarten, first grade, etc., I started writing. So that's kind of where my journey went next. That was the right-hand turn. And there's several of my books on Amazon. We can talk about those, but now I'm just so passionate about helping women create wealth. And by wealth, I need to define that. Wealth is not necessarily money in your bank account. The term wealth, the word wealth, comes from an old English word, weal, W-E-A-L. And what that word means is well-being. So when I help women with wealth and help them see how much abundance and energy flows through their life, it's all about their well-being. It's about their emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of their life. And when those are aligned, women can peacefully create abundant wealth in every moment. But we get out of alignment because of, whatever our experiences have been, or perhaps we have a definition of success that someone else gave us that's not really our own. We're not living authentically. So it's this multifaceted, beautiful concept that I love to help women uncover.
I love it that it's called, your business is the empowered way. I said financial well-being a couple of times, or welfare, only because that's where I tend to be stuck, because my well-being, my prosperity window and abundance is huge in all the other ways. But you know what, Kathryn, I've had some angels in my life recently during this pandemic that have done some really wonderful financial, given some wonderful financial gifts to boost me and put me over the edge. And so I count that as a form of prosperity. And still yet,
Yes.
based on my crazy paradigm, that stories that I hold from childhood about the way it looked, and I don't think people that have money are a certain way, or could I possibly be like, could I still be nice and kind at the same time? And
Exactly
so
what you're talking
that's
about.
well-being, that's all thinking, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And June, I don't know your past history, but just women in general, we are trained to be helpers. We're trained to be nurturers. We're trained to think of the other person before yourself. And coming back to being authentic and real, that's not, or at least that wasn't my experience growing up.
Mhm.
And I had a very unusual circumstance growing up. I have a twin brother. So, and I was the only girl. So I could see there was like a double standard. And that's just the way my parents were great. They loved us both. But he was encouraged to do a lot of things that I had to stay back home and, help with the house or read a book, those kinds of things. So I do believe there's a masculine and feminine energy to money. And our society right now is so focused on the masculine, the linear driven, goal oriented, data supported. And women, that's just not a natural way for women to be with money. And so
Mhm.
that's what I introduce on my webinars, and my courses, is the feminine approach to money.
Mhm.
And
That
it's opened up so many paradigms for me. It's opened up so many different ways of looking at prosperity. And your example of you've had so many angels during the pandemic that have helped you, that is a perfect example of feminine energy being allowed to flow into your life and through your life.
and being in a place of acceptance that I'm worth it. And moreover, what I've noticed is that I'm going to keep giving no matter what.
Exactly.
And I want to learn to receive I want to maintain a level of graciousness in my reception. And I think about the way I was raised. So I'm 58, and I grew up watching Leave It to Beaver
Yes.
and June Cleaver, and sort of like June Cleaver did everything for Ward and the kids.
Mhm.
And it was the white picket lifestyle. And so I grew up with that idea that that's the way it should look. And oftentimes I felt very codependent, like the way I was winning in my relationship was by doing, by doing, instead of like, could I, let's see if I can say this. Could I still be loved and not be doing all the time?
Mhm.
And where does that piece come together that shows that I'm enough just as I am?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's where I can see where the empowered way, the coaching that you do supports, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that that's where it would support me and other women in connecting those old dots, those deteriorating stories, hopefully
Right.
someday.
Yes. Well, and there's various techniques to release limiting beliefs, but first you have to be able to identify them.
Mhm.
So you've just touched on what I feel like is the fundamental core process that doesn't work for women, which is As I said, men, masculine energy is linear driven. It's goal oriented. If you think of a mountain, it's climbing up to the top. We have to reach the top. How are we going to do it? As opposed to feminine energy, which is more fluid and flowing. And it's not necessarily directed at one specific goal, but it's coming from a place inside, internally, your inner verse as opposed to your outer verse.
Oh,
So yeah, so what is an integral part of my coaching is meditation and mindfulness.
I saw that on your website. I was like, oh, I love this. I'm so
Yes, and
with her.
some days, June, I wake up and go, oh my gosh, was I ever an attorney? I mean, it's just so different. But I just love this because I've seen the effect and the impact it's made on my clients. The meditations are wonderful. I don't know if you're a meditator or not. Yeah, I just, once I began meditating, it just changed my life. And I would highly encourage your audience to look into meditation. There's so many resources now, and there's so many apps on your phone. So
Absolutely. I think I must have like 6 or 7, from
yeah,
chakra to singing bowls to
right, right.
I find I have discovered over the years that there is a certain resonance that will hold my attention to release
Yes,
rather than in the stillness. My mind still is busy.
yes,
So finding a place to just cut all the crap,
right.
it really takes us a certain moment or time. And sometimes it's just 5 minutes is more than enough.
And that's maybe all you need right then. And you can also meditate while you're standing in the ocean, allowing the waves to wash over you. I mean, it doesn't have to be sitting on a cushion, saying Om. Yeah, exactly. I actually did a meditation when we were on the Big Island on one of our hikes. I just tried to feel, you drop into your body and you feel the sensation of your weight shifting on your feet and the breeze on your skin, and you see the trees or whatever it is around you. And that is a meditation in and of itself.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
As as a matter of fact, in my wedding business, whenever I'm performing a ceremony, oftentimes I'll ask a couple to just close their eyes.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
and when they close their eyes, just to notice the texture of each other's hands that they're holding, and to
Yeah.
feel the trade winds brush by, and to notice their feet in the sand, and the scent of the breeze, and the
Oh,
rise and fall of their own breath. Because my invitation in that moment is that when they open their eyes, they've created a sense of awareness that can take them back to something that they created with a memory that feels just that good.
yes. And
And
yeah. And what you've done, I'm sorry, but that's such a beautiful example. I heard a quote one time that it said, the mind is a time traveler. It's always in the past or the future, but your body is always in the present moment. So when you find yourself spinning, either in the past or the future, whatever it is, if you do exactly what you did, take a minute, close your eyes, breathe, and then run through some physical sensations, and you will come back to that sacred space, to that beingness.
I
And
love
it's
it.
such a beautiful thing for you to do before you marry someone.
Yeah, it just feels like a space where they can be together, where
Yes.
all of the noise of whatever, I don't know, the day around them just can dissolve, and they can have a moment with each other. And that begs me to ask, in your coaching, um, gender seems to be such a, what is it, non-gender identifying, or I'm trying to learn all of the terms,
I'm not,
especially
I'm
in a
not up on all that. I have no problem with it, but I'm not up on it.
yeah, the whole conversation around they them, rather than he or she. I like how you use though, the feminine and the masculine energy in your conversation,
Yes.
which I find it to be incredibly respectful of human beings.
Well, and thank you, but it's, how long have we had that? The yin and yang energy,
Yeah,
the yin and yang symbol. We all have both energies, men and women in non-gender, I believe. I'm not sure, I may be speaking out of turn, but let's just take men and women who identify as such, you have masculine and feminine energy. But for women with money, particularly, we have not been taught how to be with our feminine energy with money. And that's where I'm just like, and my whole mission, June, see, I'm getting all choked up about this. My whole mission is to help women create wealth so they can heal themselves and then go out and heal the world.
I love it.
Yeah. And you can heal yourself as you go through this one process. There's other ways, but I offer this process where you learn your sacred money archetypes. I know I'm getting to that. And I'm so glad you put that up. And then once you can recognize those patterns that you may have been using subconsciously, unconsciously to sabotage yourself, then you can say, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to do this instead. And that's just one part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But thank you for taking the assessment. Did you find it difficult or hard or?
Oh, no, it was a pleasure to do. I had a few questions about my beliefs in the process.
Okay.
And really where I sat on the fence. So I'll just share that for those of you that are listening, Kathryn offered the sacred archetype, the sacred money archetype assessment. And I went through several sets of questions, totaled up some columns, and was able to match them with an archetype. And may I just share out loud what I came up with?
Yes, please.
Okay, so my number one, I'll read them all so that you as a listening audience can hear what they are. My number one was connector, which made complete sense. Number two was my nurturer, which made complete sense.
Mhm.
My number three was alchemist, which made complete sense. Number four was accumulator, which made complete sense. And then I had a tie for 5 and 6. They came out with the same numbers at the end. Celebrity and romantic, which made complete sense. And then ruler and maverick.
Yes.
And that made sense too, because I've really worked on letting go of the need to be, well, I don't know so much about the need to be seen, but the need to be in charge or to stand out in a big crowd. I'd rather make a difference in a big crowd than stand out, if that makes any sense at all.
So makes total sense.
What did you come up with, a snapshot, if I might ask? I mean, I know we don't have an appointment, but we do have a call. So
well, and I did offer to do this for you. So when I read your email and I saw, we just look at the top 3 archetypes. So it's yours is connector, nurturer, and alchemist. And when I saw that those were your top 3, it like, that makes sense just based on my conversations with you. So those 3 archetypes, and let me just explain what archetype is very quickly. An archetype is a general pattern that holds across people. So think of a hero archetype. You know what a hero archetype, maybe one of the Marvel characters comes to mind.
Wonder Woman.
We just saw that movie last night. It's great. We just saw it. It was great. So I always think of Diana, Wonder Woman. But that's a hero archetype. You also have even a husband spouse archetype. Who is it you think you should be? What role should I be playing? So with the sacred money archetypes, there's 8 archetypes. There's 8 different personalities is what I call them. And you can have a combination of any of those 8, but we work with the top 3. So yours are connector, nurturer, and alchemist. And it was interesting for that combination because all 3 of those are very relationship oriented. Those are the 3 most relationship oriented out of the entire 8.
Oh.
So relationships are more important or more, you focus more on relationships maybe than financial gain. Relationships are more important than creating a business. I mean, I'm just throwing things out.
Well, you're right about all of it. What can
Well,
I say?
I know because my number 1 archetype is connector and my number 2 is alchemist. And my number 3 is ruler, but I tend to stay more in connector and alchemist. So I know those 2. Having nurturer as part of your combination is an interesting add-on because the nurturer wants to help others, wants to support and be there for others. And the way the money nurturer archetype does that is by offering financial help. So have you ever done that before where you've offered financial help to someone else?
In small ways. I don't have gobs and gobs of money, but I mean, just the other day, I had a gift card that was given to me for Starbucks. I've been received a couple of them, and I went by Leahi Health, and I just popped up to the window. I didn't order anything, and I gave it to the girls in this tiny little shoebox business. And I
Oh,
said, if you need a break, Merry Christmas, go get yourself a cup of coffee. And they were floored. So sometimes just the small things, or I'll drop
yeah.
a bag of dog food off to some homeless people that have dogs, or that just,
Yeah.
th- yeah.
That's a great idea. Those are all very kind. And that I love those kinds of gestures. And that doesn't necessarily fit into the archetypes. That's just being human. You're recognizing them, you're seeing them as another human being. Yeah. Yeah. So kudos to you.
And Kathryn, I would love to, like, I have this vision. I'd like to have, I'd like to be a homeowner, and then I'd like to have my son's name on it and give the house to my son. And all the other money, just gobs and gobs of money, I want to gift it all away.
Yes.
All of it, every last red cent.
Yes. That's so funny. So women, this kind of brings me back to the difference between women versus men. When women become wealthy, they tend to give it all away, just like you described, or to help someone else. When men become wealthy, they donate maybe to get their name on a building or to get on the board of some organization that they think might help their business. And I'm not criticizing, I'm totally not judging, but there's studies that discern these differences. I'm not just making this up. And
Sometimes,
so, yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, somebody told me a story of a big business owner. Actually, it was a man, and I've forgotten what the business was, but that he tithed 90% and kept 10% for himself.
That's fabulous.
I wish I could remember who that was. He tithed 90% and kept 10% for himself because his own needs were not so big.
Yeah.
And I thought that is an amazing vision. I'd like to be able to do the same.
Yes, that is an amazing vision. That is. So with your three archetypes, it's perfectly possible for you to create a wealth. But you have to see the shadow sides, and each archetype has its shadow side.
Oh boy, I'm sure.
Yeah. So they all have their gifts. They all have,
Okay.
they all have their gifts, challenges, and the shadow side. So for the connector, it's putting relationships, not offering things for free, not charging, just things like that. But, within reason. Obviously, you want to stay within your values and be in integrity in terms of what you consider to be important. But I've had some clients, for example, the accumulator. That's the person that you know exactly to the cent how much is in your bank account. You don't tend to spend on yourself or others because that's your security, that's your safety. So for someone like that, you can see we're opening up a little bit, maybe spending something on themselves, maybe starting a project where others are involved, where they can, share and commingle. Yeah. So it's sort of the same thing with the connector. The relationships are important, but it's also important that you get paid what you're worth, what your value is.
That's interesting that you say that, because I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Interior Design. And when I was in the design industry, I felt I couldn't, first of all, I felt like I couldn't charge for my service. Like anybody could figure this out. And I had to get out of it. I just had to go. And then when I opened my destination wedding business, I realized there was a value to who I'm being and what I was offering and the organization I was putting together. And it was much easier for me to, in little increments, raise my prices to a point where I'm just comfortable to where it is now. And that's enough. I think what you get more than your money's worth is my intention. But it's taken a lot of time to massage my brain into thinking I'm worth it.
Well, and that's a perfect example of someone becoming empowered. You recognize that you had maybe the ability or talent to not charge as much as you were worth, but you were creating these amazing experiences for people
Yeah.
that they would gladly have paid more for. So
Yeah.
Your self-introspect, and I commend you for that. But I keep wanting to go back to this point, and I think now's a good time to do it. The word being. This is something I emphasize to my clients and in my seminars. The world right now, and let's set aside COVID, let's just say how people are trained to make money and earn a living and support themselves. That formula is do, have, be. You go out and do, and then you'll have what you think is going to make you happy, and then you'll be happy. Do, have, be. So what you just said, I want to make a lot of money so I can buy a house and give it to my son. That's all future based. Do you see that?
Yes.
That's all, and that's going to
hard shift. It's so
yeah, exactly. And that's going to stay in the future. But when you use the formula that women naturally use before it's been trained out of us, which is being first, then you do, and then you'll have. So what is your state of being when you think about having the money to buy a house and give it to your son? What is that state of being, June?
Oh.
Is it generous? Is it obviously love? But
I don't know about part of it feels like I'm just going to say it, like duty.
okay.
What can I leave my boy?
So it's legacy kind of
Legacy,
thing?
yeah. Legacy.
Okay.
Yeah, legacy.
And
I
that's
want
okay.
something. Yeah. So duty, legacy.
Okay. But when you think about that gift, that ability to give him that legacy, who are you being as you're thinking about that?
I feel like I'm being joy, like joy and peace at the same time.
Okay. So as you are joy and peace and you move throughout your day in that state of beingness, you will begin to see opportunities that will bring about actions, the doingness you can take towards that havingness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I'm totally putting
feel it. I
yeah.
can feel it.
Yeah. So you're it first. It's your inner verse. You create on the inside, and then it will begin to show up, and you'll know what you're supposed to do. So be, do, have.
That's why you talk about um, alignment and not altruism, but there was another word, authenticity.
Authenticity,
I
yeah.
saw on your website, authenticity.
Right.
The beingness of authenticity that works.
Exactly. And so you do the same thing when you have the couple stop for a minute because they've been, it's all the frantic hurry up and here's our moment. And you have them stop and you have them drop in so they can appreciate and be with their love, be with this other person that they're pledging themselves to. I mean, you do that.
I do.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes I think it just crossed my mind when I'm in that moment. I feel like I also do it for myself to ground where I'm at so that I can be fully present for the ceremony.
Yes. And so this is, yes, I love that. And I love the word presence. I'm still working this out, so it may not come out quite right. But the word beingness to me, being, B-E-I-N-G, if you write it down and then write words next to it. So born to express the infinite nature of God. We are born to express the infinite nature of God. And when you're in that space of beingness, that's what you are doing. And your mind's not there. Your mind is quiet. And that's why I love meditation so much, because I can drop into that beingness and give some space away from the doingness. So born to express the infinite nature of God. So I believe that we all, every person on the planet, whenever they were born, living now or in the future, we all have a drop of divine essence. Okay, everyone is here because we came from God. and we're born to express the infinite nature of God. So we have this essence. So when you drop into your beingness, you're actually connecting with that essence.
Mhm.
And when you open your eyes and look out, that essence becomes your individual presence. So presence includes essence, but it's also individuated.
Mhm. Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Completely.
Yeah. And
Completely.
so I'm still working that out, but that's when I made that connection. When you look at the word presence, it contains the word essence in it.
It does. I often, when
I
you say,
mean, it's incredible when you start seeing these connections. And that's why I get so excited.
I love it. When you said the word God, it brings up energy. For me, because that was a buzzword for me many years ago, when I'm like, I don't think so, or whatever was on my mind. And I learned from Reverend Mary Morrissey a couple, maybe it was a decade or two ago. She used the acronym for God, good, orderly design.
Oh, I love that. Hold on.
Good, orderly design. And I found that when I used that acronym, it was easier to share from a spiritual standpoint, being myself also a licensed Unity teacher, and
Yes,
really not wanting to get too woo-woo on people because Unity is new thought.
right.
But in coaching, understanding where people's come from is from, um, I love that you're connecting the being with this phrase of born, is it born of expressed infinite nature in God? Is that it?
Born to express,
Okay.
born to express the infinite nature of God.
Okay, so we have a couple little words in between.
Yeah, there's a couple little to make it sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, and I like your connectivity of how you're sharing, because I'm always looking for ways to invite new thought in
Mhm.
in order for someone to see themselves, or in questioning, allow them to answer that question like you did for me when you said, what do you, well, let's see, what was the exact question where I said peace and joy? Um, Beingness, when you asked me about beingness and what it
Yeah,
was I wanted to create or felt when I wanted to buy my son a home,
right. Peace
what
and
that
joy.
beingness is.
Okay,
It,
and you can see the difference creating from peace and joy versus I've got to make $5,000 as much because it goes to my son's house.
yes,
The difference in energy.
yes.
Yeah, and
And
I'm
part of it was
exaggerating.
like, oh, I'm a dreamer, that'll happen some a day, some a day. And the other part goes, well, you know what, everything, life has always worked out well for me.
Yes,
It seems that I'm always being set up for success and things keep flowing when I'm
absolutely,
in that place of being.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
universe is set up to help you succeed. And the universe is also set up to reflect what you're not being.
Yeah. And I
So
guess be the opposite of a
yeah,
connector, a nurturer, or an alchemist.
yeah,
And
right.
seem to be my come froms. Yeah.
Right. But think about this, and this is why I love this discussion about wealth and money. What is money? It's not the tangible. I mean, now it's so digitized, we don't even handle paper money anymore.
That's so true.
It's really just energy. And that's when I had a big aha moment when I realized, wait a minute, money is just energy. And it's almost it's like a mirror or a chameleon. It becomes whatever I think it is or
Mhm.
whatever I say it is. So if I say, oh, pandemic, I lost my job, and I'm not disparaging anyone who's been in this situation, but I don't have any money. When I make that declaration, that is what I'm going to see.
Mhm.
I'm being lack and limitation.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? When
Completely.
I say I've lost my job, I'm capable, I'm worthy, I have other abilities, other talents, however you want to phrase that, and I know I'm taken care of and loved, you're going to see possibilities that you'd never see when you say, I don't have any money.
Mhm. That self-talk is so debilitating.
Oh,
It's
it's
so,
so,
it's a
and
night.
the ego is such a trickster.
So
Yeah, go
say,
ahead.
say a new client comes on with you, how do you begin to navigate to discover where they are lacking in personal wealth. Do you start with the sacred money archetype?
Yes.
You do. Okay,
Yes.
right.
Because what I have is a one-on-one coaching course. It's an 8-week program. And we meet once a week, and there's various experiences and exercises I take the client through, but it's based on their top 3 money archetypes. And during the time, it's an hour each week, but during the time that the client is off, there's journaling prompts, there's meditations, and it's amazing the amount of awareness that exponentially just occurs when you start looking at your money and your habits and your beliefs in a new way with a new framework. And that's what the Sacred Money Archetypes gives you. It gives you a whole new framework to look at it.
And do you take a look at the past, or are you working with the current and moving forward?
I do. There's one section of my program that deals with limiting beliefs. And it's actually the next one after we figure out what the Sacred Money Archetypes are. And also with the monkey mind. You have to recognize when your mind just starts spinning. And anyone, I'm not a Buddhist. I have adopted several of the philosophies maybe, or tenets, and one of them is monkey mind. So some of your listeners probably know way more about it than I do. All I know is I can identify when my mind starts doing that. And that's when I go into some breathing exercises and drop back into my body, because I don't want my mind to be a time traveler. I can spin off and create so many different scenarios that none of them are true, but I get upset about.
That reminds me, I have a friend that visits, and whenever we're together, and her husband comes also, he says, "All right, squirrels, when are you ready to go?" And we've come up with so many crazy names like squirrel meditation. And
yeah. And it's just, and you can
to notice.
Exactly. And it's that development of self-awareness. And then that gives you the space to make a different decision. You don't believe what the monkey mind is telling you. You say, oh, well, there you go again. Okay, I want to do this instead. And it's a decision point. It's a pivot point. And that's how you change your life, one decision point at a time.
I love this because, well, my business is making love visible. And in discovering our own well-being, we make love visible.
Yes.
Moment by moment. And that is what you are doing with the work.
Yes.
And supporting women in this particular fashion with the empowered way.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, June, I use money and wealth kind of as the opening. It's really, it's really more of a, let's realign, let's decide who we're going to be, and let's have the tools and the techniques to move forward. But if I said that, no one would show up. Well, people show up for money.
I was intrigued because it's a sacred money archetype. And do you think more women struggle with money issues than other issues? Well, maybe love would be up there, but love themselves, or maybe it's just all one big ball of wax.
I don't have anything statistically to prove this, but my own experiences, my biggest challenge was with money. Even when I'm making great money as an attorney, I'm spending it as fast as I make it. Well, what's up with that? That's not good. That's not healthy. So it's a self-evaluation and looking at what do I think money is and who am I with money? It's really, you focus the relationship with yourself, with money, and then how you show up in the world. It's the alignment of those three.
Gosh, something says that if I were to be your coach E, that it could be painfully delicious. That's crazy. Like I feel some energy on this because some pieces that I hold in place. So it's just fascinating. We've actually been on the line for almost 50 minutes on this topic.
Have we really?
I'm zipped by. I'm wondering if there's any last minute piece that you'd like to share that I may have missed that feels valuable to get out there.
Yeah, no, you've pretty much covered it, but where people can find me, my website is empoweredway.com. But right now I'm running a special on My 8-week coaching course is painfully delicious. Love that. And it's very intense. So some people aren't quite ready for that. And so I created what I call the mini course. And it's the first 2 modules. And so you learn your sacred money archetypes, and then you learn about the monkey mind and limiting beliefs, and you get the meditations that go with that and the journal prompts. So I've got that on as a special.
On your website, empoweredway.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, and I would just say that. And I also have, if anybody wants a 20-minute coaching call, use the button on the website and schedule time with me.
okay, great. And tell me the titles of your books.
Oh, goodness. The first one was called Walk with the Master. And it was the story about Jesus when he was in his early 20s, and a dog discovered him and recognized instantly. So it's told through the story of a dog. It's for children.
How fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a really fun book to write. And then I wrote a fictional book called Heart Dancing. And it's a story about a family who has a secret that the one person knows about and the other person doesn't, and it explodes, and the whole family's about to go blow up, but they find a way to stay together. And then my last book is called Drop the Leash, Let Go of the Past and Love in the Present. And that is the story of Avatar, who's a golden retriever, who is so sick and tired of seeing his people get so upset about things that they don't need to get upset about. So it's all about forgiveness and releasing so you can be present here and now. But it's told from a dog's viewpoint. I thought, I'm on this dog thing, right?
You're a dog lover.
I am. And then just to thank you for asking, I've got one more book that I'm about to release, hopefully early next year, called The Money Tree, The Sacred Journey into the Heart of Money. And I'm real excited about it.
Yeah.
It's a parable. It's a parable. And this money tree is sent from divine love. That's what I call God, divine love, to teach people how to be with money. And it's essentially a lot of the concepts taken from my coaching course, but put into a book and parable form.
How beautiful.
So it's
beautiful.
Thank you.
And is everything available on Amazon, or how do we find it? Through your website, or?
Go to Amazon and Google and search my name and you'll find it. Yeah. The Money Tree hasn't come out yet. That's for next year, which is right around the corner.
Yeah, gosh, time goes by so fast.
It does.
Well, Kathryn, it's just been a joy having you on with me this afternoon. And thank you so much for saying yes and sharing with me about your practice, your coaching practice, and the empowered way, and supporting women in the good news for them.
Yes, thank you. And June, you've been such a great listener. You've asked the right questions, and I just feel really thankful, very grateful.
Good.
So thank you. And you're doing marvelous work as well.
I'm getting there one day at a time.
You're getting it. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being with me, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
See you next time.